Our last presentation of the day is the presentation of experiences and know more about ICS software. Please come to the main table. Omar Jair Mendoza. Omar is consultant in software development. He was graduated from the University of Del Valle de Atemajaca. Did I say it right? Atemajac, Jalisco. This is the person that worked on most of the development of the ICS software together with our friend Ali and collaboration of Pedro. And he's volunteer of the Mexican Red Cross. Thank you. First of all, to the organization USA IDEOFTA and the whole team, and Pedro Soto, who, thanks to them together jointly, and to the whole Mexican team, it has been possible to develop this tool. And thank you all for being here. Let's speak more about these experiences and use of this ICS software in Latin America. As a description or as a summary, the software as such is a tool that works for electronic records. This is for the establishment of the ICS or during an operative event or an incident. This software as such that is good for this process is compatible with different operative systems that can be used in Windows, Mac, or Linux, and it works under 3 modalities, which you have heard during the presentations that we have been listening to here. One of them is the mono-user modality. This is like the initial modality. Someone arrives to the incident, and you can work on one single computer. I can work registering the incident of that computer. In this ICS process, we integrate different institutions and more people. At a given time, besides to integrate more people, we integrate more computer equipment. This way, we can move on to the next modality, which is the client-server modality. What is this modality about? I can connect a router, a switch, or a device that helps us connect to other computers, and the other computers, using their internet navigator, can be linked to my machine. In this way, we can all use the software. In a very interesting manner, it was applied in Costa Rica, where we were using the system in the network. To have it in a single, I can have it in single equipment, or I can have it installed in different equipment to be able to use it as a network. Once we're working with the software and once we're operating with it, it is necessary to have some reports. These reports are working. We can see some images, some exercises. What we have done, the structures are printed from the system, and they have placed in places where they can be visible, and we can update them besides looking at this within the system. These working products can be obtained from the system when we are working with them. In the last forum, where we were, if I remember, it was in Ecuador in 2008, we were speaking about a desk version. At that time, we had a system that worked on client-server and also on the mono-user, but the detail was that we were developing a desktop platform. There was a tool that could only work on a modality on a Windows environment, developed with a tool that's called Visual Basic. At that time, we were saying that what we were going to do, this transformation of the tool from Visual Basic to a tool for Internet, or in this case, a PHP version with HTML and other options that the system offers. It is a reality. In fact, that's what many of you have been using as part of the apparatus and the exercises that I have seen here in this forum. Aside from this change, besides working on that update in the system, it was a joint work. That is, not only the ones that were directly involved in the project, but also there were some validation processes. The first one took place in 2011 in San Jose, Costa Rica, and we have worked with specialist technicians on ICS as such. We have also worked with engineers in IT, and obviously with the consultants for this whole topic. And within all them, we have used the tool. They have worked on this, they have validated it, and they also made comments and observations that were afterwards added and integrated as part of the software. There have been some exercises, some operations where the tool has been used in Mexico, Costa Rica, Colombia, El Salvador, and Ecuador. We see here some of the pictures and some of the experiences that we have had for using this tool on September 15th in the Select Summit meeting in Costa Rica and Ecuador. It has been used in simulations. Mexico, there have been operations, deployments, events, incidents, and simulations, and El Salvador at the San Miguel Carnival. For me, this is gratifying. I was commenting with my colleagues the fact that in different institutions and in different countries, the tool is being used, the software is being used, and it has been handled in a very interesting manner in every country, with some specificities per country which are so interesting and important to share with other countries. As part of these experiences that we have been working on, some of the things that we have commented here is that the platform is user-friendly, it's intuitive, it allows to have a type of electronic documentation, it saves time, it's scalable, it promotes administration process at the same time that the information is being managed. It does not require complex equipment. You can also monitor the events in such a way of all the people in the network are working and are capturing information. At the same time, it reduces the utilization of paper. It's a light software which can be used from the navigator, from other equipment. It also allows interacting with more people. More people can be connected to the database, as was mentioned in some presentations, and all of them consulting the same information that's concentrated in one single place. Software is free. It allows generating map and structure versions. And if someone uses the internet modality, obviously we allow to use the consultation of information remotely by the users who have access to such system. But just as we have these comments, we also have some things that are always areas of opportunity for the software. Not necessarily as such for coding the tool or the software code, but in general in the utilization process. One of the things that we saw that is important is that suddenly the utilization is limited since we do not have staff assigned or systems technicians to provide support. This implies that, for example, some of the occasions when configuring the software, there is no knowledge for the configuration for ports for the Apache server firewalls. Even though the software already has in its installation tools some assistances to be able to achieve this process, it is always important to have people helping with these capacities. Another important thing sometimes is the of user permits. Sometimes, what happened is that computers were to prevent the access to install other tools. So if no additional tools are allowed in the equipment, this to install the tool as such. It requires investment in hardware and networks. There is no option, and it has been mentioned here before, for importing and exporting data, which allows us to back up the information and at the same time allows us to share information with other servers. The equipment is not pre-configured. What do I mean? with this. Basically, what we have seen is that when we are operating, that's the moment in which we want to use the tool and we want to install the tool. To place it in the context is as like now when you were working on your PowerPoint presentations or any other tool for slideshows. In this, it's as if when you wanted to prepare the presentation at that moment, you decided to install PowerPoint and afterwards work on the presentation. Obviously, this is not the ideal scenario. The intention here is that the tool as such is already installed before the incident, to where everything is better controlled and we configure it more calmly. Once this is configured, when the incident occurs, once we're in the operation or the simulation, it's easier to operate with the tool. Based on this, it was that we worked on some of the reasons to strengthen the process. As we were saying, equipment and routers are configured previously. I have installed the equipment that I'm going to use as a server. I have prepared the equipment ready to be used as part of the network. If I can have it pre-configured, it would be great. The staff with basic computer skills, it's also important that people who are going to work with the tool have the knowledge of the basic utilization of computer equipment. This other point is very important, and in fact, I think we have discussed that here, to include IT staff and logistics for the operation as part of the technical ICS software support. The proposal is to include professional IT staff or specialists in IT in the operations, in the operational part, the exercise, the processes. In some places where we saw that simulations were held and also operations were performed, part of the success that we noticed is that they had that ingredient. They had IT staff that was integrated. We simply see that here in this operation in the forum. We have back there the professionals in IT who are helping us solve any problem that might arise with the people who are connected to the network or any other problem that we might have here for using internet. Obviously, an important part for this is to have implemented the ICC process. If that process is not implemented, then we cannot use the software because we're not going to know what we're talking about in the tool. The catalogs, we have the previous information that it's good to have them before leaving the event. It's important to prepare some protocols and procedures as part of the software. In some places we can have some standards that are the safety standards that are being used, and also some things that are being used as ISO but related 100% regarding information technologies. Since this is variable and it could vary from institutions and countries, it is important that these processes and these protocols and procedures are implemented by institutions to operate the software. It is also important to have ICS software interagency and to organize cabinet and simulation exercises. This is good because this way we can see or we can analyze and review all the things that might come out during the event. As a recommendation for the feasibility part or as institutional implementation, once the ICC software is implemented, the software as such is not so hard to deploy inside the institution. Since we are already as part of the process, basically it's just an additional tool that we're going to need to use. The three modalities that we have spoken about allow also to permeate more easily the use of the software. It is also important to have some utilization mandate together to the CCI process that is also using the software. This allows to expedite the forms. As was being mentioned a while ago, and I think that this has been part of what has been commented in different presentations, We were talking about the musical scores, and the musical scores that can be understood by just anyone. If we begin using a software in this particular case, which has this musical score that we all know how to play, perhaps if we even find out more about the instruments, guitars are played the same in one country or in another country. This way, if we play the instrument the same way in different countries, it is also going to allow us to speak the same language. If I know the CCI process and I also use the software, I can use it in different places. Obviously, here we have to implement this interinstitutional implementation. This implies accountability, elaboration of working plans, and also in case we decide to publish this through the net, several people can have access. Here also, this has to be with responsibility of the institution and the country, and we need to manage the controls of user accesses. Also, we must generate a follow-up and support strategy for the institution. Obviously, all this if we're using the tool this way. Another recommendation that we see, which can be a key factor for many operatives, is that we can have a kit. This is computer and network equipment for the use of the ICSS software. They were talking that we could create a box or a bag where we have all the equipment. We know everything is configured, and and we can put it to work at the site. What comes now regarding this software, taking into consideration everything that we have commented here? First of all, we're going to gather experiences. We had done that in the previous forum. We are going to collect experiences of the utilization that is occurring right now. We're going to gather experiences that can serve us to prioritize, to include them within the software. Obviously, import and export, which allows us to back up and share information, and adjustments to report formats, basically the final report. We also spoke about the possibility of expanding these structures. Currently in the software we have blocks that are counted by fives. This is part of the discussions that we have had here. Generally it's from 3 to 7 blocks. Here we decided to choose blocks of 5, an intermediate point, and that's why we need to review how we could incorporate that within the tool. Another thing that has been mentioned here is about the barcode. We must also include a barcode, for example, everything that's related to resources. In conclusion, we're talking about an update of the ICS software as a result of the experiences that all of you have already had, and obviously this is subject to the budget. We're also working on that, and we're also analyzing that to carry that forward. To carry forward all these changes. It's all on my behalf. I thank you for using the software, the tool. Ali, Pedro, and myself. It is gratifying to see the use and the aim that is being exerted on the work related to the software. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Omar. Any questions for Omar? We were looking at it, and there's something that's a matter of concern, which is the confidentiality of information. Obviously, for safety reasons, security reasons in our country, in Colombia, there are lots of information that's confidential. How would we handle that confidentiality of the information? The software, as we saw, is open to be managed by the 3 modalities. However, it doesn't mean that it needs to be managed in the 3 ways. For example, if I just want to use it in one computer or just in my internal, I can do it. if I were to publish it and make it open so that any person can enter, it would be assigning access, and all this is going to depend on institutional policies in every organization. In some places, we can use something that's known as VPN. It can be published on the network, but through that virtual private network that I can use through the internet, that means some computers are connected to my network, but through the internet, doesn't make it public. It makes it private, and only for the people who need to use it. Someone else with a question? Costa Ricans who have been using it and have been asking a lot. Jim? More than a question, it is a comment or a request to the forum. And the countries that are using the tool, we have seen how it is internally in the Costa Rican Red Cross. It has favored us and it has helped us. So perhaps this is not the space to generate emotion, but I think that perhaps if the countries here right now tell OFDA that to please collaborate. Since on the first working table that the countries gave us, it said how can OFDA help the countries for the implementation of the ICS. I think that this could be more like a recommendation for us to please contribute with the required funds to strengthen the tool so that it's safer for us in institutions and in the countries where we want to implement it. So I think, and I leave that on the table to see if we can all give that support for that request to all. Any other question or comment? Just want to remind you that software is a tool and it doesn't do it all. We require people who operate the software have to have that intermediate ICS. And here in the forum we know that there is a weakness in this regard on institutions. So it has to go at the same time. Develop that, your people, but also give them tools. It's like having a Ferrari and not knowing how to drive, or being a good driver without a car. How can I use the ICS relating the geographical information to the program? Is there a possibility of having some type of link through this? And that's a very good question too. In fact, with the maps that the software has, we incorporated some altitude and latitude fields. What we decided right now is to not integrate them until we have a little bit of internet coverage in some places, which is Google Maps, because we wanted to introduce Google Maps or some other online tool to consult maps within the software. But we realized that during the operation or where we're going to work with the tool, not always do we have an internet signal. We had to use it here. Well, not necessarily here, because we are we have a good connection here. But if we're somewhere where we do not have a good internet connection, then it would be complicated. But software is not closed. We can use data. You can introduce data. If there is some other mechanism to get that information, it can be included as part of that. Okay. Now I want to call who works with his El Salvador Red Cross, but he's Costa Rican, but he was kidnapped here in El Salvador. He's going to share some reflections that come from you as participants regarding how USAID of the LAC through its ICS component contributed to the region. Good afternoon to all. Those of you present here as well as the internauts. You have been assigned the honor and the privilege of presenting the different reflections that we have been able to extract of these past 3 days, the works per country, works per region, and to see what are the final thoughts of the achievements that we have had, but also those things that are all still pending of being presented here for expanding the work that we have done. As part of this, we have grouped this into 3 topics, out of which the first thing are the difficulties and the challenges. As part of this, the countries have complex administrative structures, diversity of institutions, and management schemes for their response. No country is the same, no country has the same structure. Even so, organizations themselves, the standard homologous organizations, have different levels of development and different approaches. This gives us a complexity, and we slow process in order to be able to have a joint path. We also identify the lack of political backup and lack of awareness of the advantages of ICS for the national risk management system. Also, it is important to remember that we have democratic systems and there's a change of authorities every 4 or 5 years, and this causes that we also have a rotation of decision makers, and many of them sometimes receive training. New ones come who are not trained, and this requires a constant training process to the new incoming authorities. We have also found countries that have no legal framework, standards, or guidelines. A tool that allows standardizing the administration of emergencies by using the ICS. There are some countries that have achieved this. However, the fact that we have the document does not guarantee the applicability. We have also to make an effort, on one hand, some countries to approve and others to implement. We have a lack of integration of public and private institutions, lacking an integral vision to face emergency situations from the different structures of the state. There is a lack of continuity in the ICS processing institutions. We have seen here that there are some institutions where we have assigned our own resources to carry the different actions forward. There are others where we still depend on external resources in order to be able to perform the different activities. The Caribbean region does not have a solid process, and there are some pilot experiences that can explain the progress in the region. We have to take into account the Caribbean situation as part of the region, and we need to progress here in all this issue. How can institutions contribute with the strengthening of the ICS process in the countries? By empowering risk management entities to exert a necessary leadership in the process. That means that we have to approach again the authorities and to reinforce, to constantly strengthen and emphasizing on the good all this has, and also what this represents to save lives or avoid the loss of human lives. And we also mention infrastructure losses, which account to millions every time we have an event. Organizing specialized staff for providing technical assistance in the different phases of the ICS process. Someone was mentioning this morning, oftentimes we all receive the training. They receive the training. The main function is not to carry ICS forward. We still need some level of dedication as part of the institutions to have people dedicated to that work, in particular to ensure implementation of the processes. By developing and documenting pilot experiences that allow consolidating the knowledge and spreading them out. This morning we were talking about the experience of organizing a soccer World Cup, the only thing that we had to do was just turn on the TV. But we realize today all the work that's behind that, so that everything will work out fine. And it's a great responsibility. Likewise, the experience of a political regional event where safety, security aspects of trust and protection are relevant, and it's great to see how institutions trusted each other under this system, and it worked. So developing and documenting experiences of this kind takes us from theory to practice, and we need to spread out more the practice by promoting accreditation and national certification that guarantees the implementation of ICS. By participating in the awareness of all institutions involved in the process, supporting their training, planning, response, and execution of simulations and drills. Also, in this last concept for simulations and drills, that's where we can progress. Oftentimes we remain there just with the theory, but simulations and drills allow us to see these vacuums, the non-compatibilities that we have as institutions, and to have the opportunity of adjusting to see how we can work jointly, even though we have different cultures, different natures, but we can be in agreement to save lives. Now, what actions can OFDA carry forward to contribute with national systems in Mexico, Central America, and South America to be able to overcome these difficulties? One first recommendation would be to favor the exchange of experiences of good practices for the implementation of the ICS within local, regional, national, and international scopes of response agencies, as well as public, private, and community entities. I emphasize on these last two, private and community, because they are an essential part of their response to a community incident. To certify local have been carried out so far, in which we have had the implementation of the ICS system to manage a dialogue accompaniment at a high level with ministerial civil protection authorities to strengthen the political will and the implementation of ICS at the institutional level. This requires technical accompaniment, as we have already had, and perhaps due to the rotation of authorities, it is important to reinforce the political institutional part regarding the importance of all this, and to earn their goodwill, because sometimes technical experts have all the goodwill, but if the head does not understand the importance, this is not done in a voluntary manner and it is not prioritized. That's where we require accompaniment. To continue providing support with resources and technical support, the development of capacities, capacity building through training, internships, and involvement of higher education institutions in professionalization actions of emergency services, NGOs, the academia, as well as a transfer of knowledge towards the private sector. To maintain the permanent inclusion job of the guides to guide the implementation of a system of incident command in Latin America and the Caribbean within the institutions. And finally, and not less important, what happens in the Caribbean region? We also have recommendations for the development of this area. The first thing is to recognize the cultural and institutional differences we have among our regions, to plan and to execute a forum in the Caribbean to introduce and create awareness regarding the ICS process, to develop pilot initiatives in institutional programs we already have in this area, to work with the Disaster Management Agency in the Caribbean, SEDIMA, to develop a regional common approximation towards member states. And finally, to develop a regional program for training instructors on ICS at the different levels. These have been the main recommendations that have been collected through the different group works by country, and also recommendations that our colleagues through the internet have sent to us, And these are the aspects that have been more relevant and which are part of the result of this forum. Thank you. Thank you, Roy. Would anyone like to say something about what we just read? Something that you said that really called my attention was about dedicating time to develop the incident command system separate from your work. I think this is one of the things that I wanted to see if it was well understood here that when you go to work in some position in the ICS, you leave your work behind. You no longer work on what you were doing. So, for example, I'm a forest ranger. I manage the fire, even though the fire is in my forest. When I work there as a logistics head, my job is left behind. The people in the office continue working that. It's no longer my job. Now I'm the logistics head for that incident. I don't know if that's clear enough, but we try to do both things. You cannot. The scope that you have is very hard to mean to keep things at home and things somewhere else. So I really like that you said that it's a need to develop the training to be ready to do that work and do it well. Any other comment? So thank you very much once again for your contribution. With this, we finalize all the presentations and group work of this forum. Now we are getting prepared for the closing in a few minutes. afternoon. This is the end of this third Latin American Forum on the Experiences on the Incident Command System. For this closing ceremony, I'm pleased to invite over to the main table Mr. Fabian Arellano, Manager of the Regional Program for Disaster Assistance, Foreign Disaster Assistance to USAID of the LAC, Armando Amador, Chief of Operations, Armando Vividor. In Costa Rica, that's a totally different thing, so that's why I changed your last name. Chief of Operations of the General Direction of Civil Protection, Prevention and Mitigation, Mr. Joaquín Parada Jurado, General Director of the Fire Department of El Salvador, Engineer Maria Luisa Alfaro, Theme Coordinator of the ICS component of RDAP for USAID of the LAC, and Mr. Sidney Velado, Regional Advisor of USAID of the LAC. To them for their presence and you too. Now we're going to yield the floor to Master Fabian Arellano, Technical Manager of the Regional Program of RDAP for USAID of the LAC. Good afternoon, members of the main table, colleagues, participants present in Salinitas and in the cyberspace, wherever you are. This has been a very interesting 3-day journey, and with much pride I express my satisfaction because jointly we have achieved the purpose that we set ourselves since the first day. The objectives presented on this first day, and observing the interest and enthusiasm that you have expressed, not only those of you present here, but also through all the messages in the network, gives us a satisfaction and makes us continue promoting and disclosing the incident command system in the region. We know that this is not an easy task. We learned ourselves since we spent all the first days of the process in training, because that was the tradition of the courses. I have the course. I already know about ICS, but when that the need itself presented many challenges. Now we have consolidated an implementation guideline. This gives us the guideline that those of us or those who continue in the process or are beginning do not make the same mistakes nor have to reinvent the wheel. We just need to take the experiences we have. There are some institutions, some countries where this began in a way, they stopped, took a step back, took impulse, and they are becoming stronger. Others said, we do not want to continue 100% under this established guideline. We want to have our personal institutional touch, and we told them no problem, because we're all learning. What's important here is that you need to share us how you're doing that, so that we can continue. But in some cases they told us, no, let's continue doing it the same way it's been used. Others said, no, we'll keep on our path. This is all learning. This is not carved in stone, and this is a process that pertains to Latin America. And even though we might say that we adapt to the culture, it's whose culture? Is it Latin American culture? Is it a Caribbean culture? country has its own specificities and customs, and the countries that we have within the countries due to the regions, the characteristics. So we need to find a happy medium. The truth is not yours or mine. It's the truth by consensus under which we all feel part of it. We are thinking on a third forum, or a fourth forum, sorry, and a fourth forum in which we can expand topics such as education. ICS in education, we have all the regulations, everything in that direction, and the education component is fundamental on the day-to-day in life, the primary, the elementary school, high school, university, etc. This is the same, and we have challenges ahead of us. We spoke about the Caribbean region, but in the coming forum we should be here of the participating countries with experiences to take a look at the integrality of this. We cannot do it all just by translation. We have to interpret, and we have to adapt it culturally, so it's not just about literal translation. That's the point that we must emphasize here. Definitely, it is the progress is evident. Sometimes we in OFDA are too demanding. And we do not realize, and it's so good when we hear people who have seen that we have seen before, who have ceased seeing us for some time, and we can see their achievement, and it's very satisfactory to see their degree of progress. That is quite satisfactory and encouraging. We are aware that every country has to adapt and adjust the ICS process according to the legal framework, the baseline, the culture, and others, which gives an opportunity. And we know that in some parts ICS is not welcome, not because it's good or bad, but because how much would it affect me or not? How much would it make me be better organized? The easiest thing is to act by improvising. The hard thing is to act following guidelines. Some institutions act ICS for my institution. No, just for my institution. We tell them, you don't need ICS. You establish your internal procedures, and that's it. ICS is key where two or more institutions have to work jointly. Not leave it for the moment. Remember those times when each institution decided to who put the flag first, who took the patient, one took the arm, the other the leg. No, now this is a way of looking after the patient's strengths and capacities. Our consultants are ready to provide support, to motivate you, encourage you, accompany you, not to do the work for you, because it doesn't make any sense to hire a consultant, do this, and that's it. We can deliver a product, but the most important thing is not the product. The most important thing is the process, because if there is integration, there is camaraderie like the one we have had here. There is a commitment. Anything can be done, and we move forward all together. When there's a good relationship, everything progresses. But when the relationship is bad, since you're looking at me in an ugly manner, things are wrong. Thank you very much to all the RDAP team, the consultants who are gathered here, the working team of the office here, those in San Jose who tell us, well, you're there happily in the beach. I don't know how many were able to go to the ocean. You didn't touch it, but you saw it. We have a support team, the regional office, that really gives us all that support, and thank you very much. To the participants, the members of the panel, great presentations we had here. Yesterday, during one of the sessions, the discussion began to become a little bit of high tone, But this helps us reflect, and it's good that here that we are together we can define and clarify some things. That is very enriching, not through a cold email or letter, but here in our conversation. And I'm very glad with the appropriate handling of time. I was personally really concerned because the agenda was too tight and too hectic, but we now even have some extra time, and that is thanks to all of you who have contributed, you have collaborated. Some have been a little bit late, but not so much make it noticeable. We hold no grudges for those who were late, but thank you very much for the contribution. We will continue sharing experiences and knowledge in ICS as well as in other topics of the training portfolio, training and technical assistance, but mainly we will continue sharing our friendship because really always needs to take into account the people that we serve in our day-to-day, not how much we are affected or we're paid or we do less or more, but this is really the commitment. God bless you all. Thank you for words. We invite Engineer Armando Vividor, Chief of Operations of the Regional Direction of Civil Protection, Prevention and Mitigation. Thank you. Good afternoon. It has been a great pleasure to share this table of honor with our colleagues Maria Luisa Alfaro, Fabián Arellano, Sidney Blanco, Major Parada Jurado, our Director of the Fire Department of El Salvador. It is really a great pleasure. It's an honor to be able to share with you these days, to realize how much experience we have in our region, how many speakers we have working on this. And hopefully every day we are more and more following these steps of those who have already begun the journey. I have been trying to write a few words when they told me that I would be representing here the General Direction of Civil Protection and Prevention and Mitigation of Disasters. So, because as we explained yesterday, our General Director is in an official mission abroad, and that's why in the inaugural awards we had our representative, our Acting Director, Mr. Guevara. He was ready to come by today and share with you this that has a lot of meaning for us. Unfortunately, you have been following the news, and we're going to be affected by strong winds and a reduction in the temperatures in some parts of our country, and we had to call an interinstitutional meeting to be able to take measures for this, which made it impossible for him to come, and this is why I have the privilege to be here in front of you. We have been part of this whole experience that you have shared with us today, and I think that this has allowed us realizing about the importance that we can implement these tools in a common way in each of our countries, in each of our institutions, in such a way that we can just add when providing the public service for civil protection for the population, which is the people that we work for. I said that I was trying to write something, to improvise, but I reached the conclusion that after listening to all your presentations here, there is not much to make up here. So what we have to do now is to work with all the tools that we know we have, and that this is more than mandatory, even though if we had said that we must include them in our legislation. This is more a matter of will in each one of our agencies, and I think that in our countries, I hope that there is not going to be much difficulty in beginning into this process, in which in a very short term, hopefully in the fourth forum, we can all be working on presenting a summary and putting the third forum as a starting point, as a sign of a before and an after, and so that we in that next encounter we can point out positive experiences like the ones we have seen today in each of your countries. I have to thank each of the delegations that have honored with their presence and who have shared their experience, the representatives of the institutions of our national civil protection system who have accompanied us, and who therefore this will make any implementation of this system feasible. Also, to those who have made this possible, the whole organizing, executing team for this program, our deepest gratitude. And on behalf of El Salvador, on behalf of Civil Protection Direction as a representation of the national system, the only thing we have now is before us is to assume the commitment of all the actions that allow the implementation of these systems, as I said, in all the activity that we develop in that national system, which we also believe, and as we pointed out in the final exercise we did yesterday, it would be easy in as much we already have interinstitutional articulation mechanisms that we hope can become in a point that is already covered. It's not that I want you to leave, because we're already missing you. We create that kind of feeling of being family when we share this, when we are looking after an emergency and we find the representative of an institution that you already know, that you have already been on a first name basis, and it's very easy to tell them, I need you to support me with this, contrary to having to talk to someone that I just got a business card and they told me, call this person and they can help you. I guess that they will help us, but it's them. So these spaces allow us to do that, to regard ourselves as peers, to establish synergy, and to strengthen our capacities. I insist, I don't want to take more time from you. It's not that I want you, since the time is coming, I just hope you to take back a couple of pictures of El Salvador, and whenever you want to be back, you'll be totally welcome. Thank you. Thank you, engineer. Without any doubt, the hospitality that we have felt from our brothers in El Salvador is as warm as the weather that we have been enjoying these days. We reiterate our gratitude to our national counterpart, to the National Direction of Civil Protection, Prevention and Mitigation, for their support and through the work here and through our Jurado. He is our ICS focal point in El Salvador, and he is the General Director of the Fire Department of El Salvador. Good afternoon, members of the main table, Luisa, Fabián Arellano, Engineer Armando Vividor, Engineer Marilis Alfaro, Sidney Velado, and our consultant Sergio David Gutierrez, representatives of the delegations of the different countries gathered here, friends. I am going to make an institutional reference because the experience that ICS has left us with and that we apply has been very successful. And for the Fire Department of El Salvador, the Incident Command System has been and shall continue to be a very useful tool for the management of emergencies. This has allowed to develop the work in an orderly fashion, systematic, at the institutional level, and the institutional and interinstitutional levels. Given the usefulness of this, we have been able to articulate the report that was given during and after the emergencies that we look after with the ICS 201 forum, thus achieving this and turning it into a legal tool in the country when claiming for insurance and lawsuits according to the inherent responsibilities. And in this sense, now that in our report we have considered the implementation and the reflection of ICS, we have had less claims from different actors, mainly in the legal scope, on the results of the operation. It has facilitated the interinstitutional implementation through the common technology integrated communications, thus having a better response to emergencies. Is the greatest benefit has been the better attention of the population, the attention of the population. With the development of this third Latin American Forum on the experiences of the application of the Incident Command System, we reinforce the commitment of the National Civil Protection System, out of which the Fire Department of El Salvador is a part of, to continue the route of implementation and consolidation of the ICS for emergencies as well as for events that involve civil protection. As Fabian said, we thank the dynamic participation of the different countries in this forum when sharing your experiences, which contributes to the integration as a region in the attention of the different emergencies of our competencies. As Engineer Vividor said, we wouldn't want you to leave our country, but however the moment has to come, we really hope that you like our country and may you come back soon. And I want to say you enjoyed your stay in our country, and I wish you a safe return back home. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Thank you for your words, Major. Now I yield the floor to my colleague Luisa Alfaro, who is the responsible of here, and she's responsible that we are all systematically connected under ICS. Good afternoon. As we say, everything has a beginning and an end. And we are in the process of the closing. Which closing? The operational closing. To do then what? The administrative closing, and everything will be ready when we can receive the memoirs of the forum. Because I thank the team for all the hard work. First of all, I want to thank the staff, the general staff, section heads, Jackie, Santiago, who worked hard, and Silvia, Eduardo, Fernando, who was also part of staff, Dana, Ricardo. We Sergio David Gutierrez as liaison officer. We had on the planning part with Mariela, and visual transmission, the whole team, Antonio, Clive, Cecil, Ali, Rosa. We had a whole team working on that area. Logistics, Ana Silvia, Lourdes, Adriana, all supporting for this to be a success. In the field of finances, we have Beatriz, Patricia, Marcos. There's a whole team. Some are here and others on the other side, supporting in one way or another. Here we can see really this taught us a lot. I think that having worked as part of the team and learning all this, we all learned. We learned to respect the functions in the assignments, and it was very easy because it was directing an orchestra. Everybody in their role, everybody in their function were able to play the right song. And I think that the result is the work that we have today and what you have been able to show here. I would like to share the conclusions that we can extract from this forum. We have 14 conclusions that came out of the forum and say the progress in pilot experiences is evident in the chosen countries which have implemented the process more than 10 years with a high level of commitment. We found challenges and difficulties that make up lessons learned for the whole region. Thank you, friends of the pilot countries, the ones that had long nights, but we learned a lot, and we can see these advances that we have been working on during these years. And today and every day we see there are new things that come from this teamwork. My gratitude, I think that Freddy today has to feel very proud for that work of the guides, which were prepared with the actors of the different pilot experiences, and they have the path to follow to implement the incident command system, which allows integrating the interinstitutional efforts for the management of incidents for operative events. Let's give an applause to Freddy for all the support. It has been proven that after these 10 years of experience, that the leadership of these topics has to be taken through the national systems of disaster risk management, where we involve first response institutions, technical coordination entities, the educational sector, the health sector, and the private sector, and non-government organizations, and all the other sectors of the system. These are the heads and the leaders of incident command system process. The commitment that each one of you has to carry to your countries, and it's to convince these authorities that we have to fight for a system and how we want emergencies to be together, because it's your system. As Jake said, it's your problem. We want to standardize, it's your problem. And we want to work. We can provide support, and we have been contributed as AFTA in the region for that. The shared experiences shared in the forum revealed that ICS is a flexible model which facilitates the development of operations in incidents at a different scale, from small ones, multiple incidents, and major incidents, as well as scheduled events, mass events, amongst others. In this design, we have created a flexible culture to speak the same language among the countries, adapting to the standards and specificities of each one. This forum has shown the application of ICS in different areas: forest areas, hospitals, user institutional private sector NGOs, among others. And all the changes and improvements have been generated this way, as well as the contributions for the development of new instruments for the region. The ICS process has facilitated the articulation of preparation for emergencies and response actions with integrated management systems of the institutions, supporting quality certification processes under international ISO standards and guaranteeing better services for the citizens. The institutions in the region were able to achieve better standards and procedures, reaching a figure of more than 540 procedures that have been shared and which have been built as a basis in national standards and international standards for this purpose, applying all ICS. And I think that we have more than 500, but I have registered 540 that have become official. Different cities in the region were able to establish in a joint manner protocols, interinstitutional agreements to manage different types of incidents, events, and operations. It is necessary to continue developing such instruments and socializing them and maintaining them updated with all the stakeholders. This is a very important step to reach these negotiations, and we have to continue working on this, which still requires more efforts. The application of ICS makes improvements evidence for effective communication, the strengthening of institutional capacities, the quality of response in events, resource optimization, registration and documentation of experiences from their application in real incidents as well as in simulations and drills. The application of ICS has promoted likewise the innovation and creativity to improve decision-making based on technological instruments and documentary management processes, thus facilitating to the organizations follow-up in real time and process evaluation. The application of the ICS has helped us in these 10 years that we require to specialize the staff that is going to have different roles and functions in the decision-making process, which is a vital importance factor for the effectiveness of the operations. Therefore, we're required to continue the work for developing the contents which allow training and definition of mechanisms for the accreditation of those who are responsible of the different functions. After 10 years, we have the challenge ahead of us of developing instruments to share knowledge in a mass form in order to reach at the basic level to and organizations that are interested in ICS. The third regional forum on ICS has been for USAID OFTA, a space of integration of experiences and teachings from the different countries of the LAC region, which allows us to identify and to orient the new approaches of our assistance program. Changes and advances that have been shared by institutions encourage us to continue supporting national efforts in order to save lives, alleviate suffering of the people, and continue growing as countries in the region. If we see all this that we have here in these conclusions is the work that you have done, and this is really very encouraging for all of us to see the work that the team, the consultants, and all of you have done to achieve all these progresses. And today we are showing to the world what we have done as Latin America together with the Caribbean, the work of the implementation of the ICS. And we can say, yes, it works. We can do it. It's the will of all of us. I want to share something that since a long time ago we had been working on, and to be able to have an application on ICS for iPhone and for Android. Today they sent me, because this was part of the work with the people to have today in our phones, we're going to have we need the Insera guides, the grid guide, so the camp manual, everything will be here in this application that you pretty soon are going to have. But we wanted to test it, and today we want to tell you that this is a reality, the work that we had been doing as a team gathered here, working hard. Thank you, Luz Maria and Leonardo, for the hard work. I know that it's not easy to capture it all, to systematize the information. Pedro, Ali, who am I missing? Dana, Alejandra, Gabriela. Who else, Jackie? Our friends in the transmission table. It's all. Thank you very much for helping and contributing for this great achievement that we have. And we can say today that today firefighters, police department, forest department, Red Cross, all of us work together and coordinate together with the physicians. We are a work team, and we can do it. It has been proven with everything that was presented in this forum. It is totally proven here, and the advance for me is incredible what we grew in 2 years. Imagine the coming 2 years, what are we going to be able to show to Latin America. Thank you, friends, for all your work. Thanks to our incident commander of this event, Luisa, for your words. And now to finalize with the closing speech, I invite Mr. Sidney Velado, Regional Advisor of USAID of the LAC. Good afternoon. I think they were almost ready to leave, so I'm gonna be brief. I'll just take half an hour approximately. First of all, I would like to thank the members of the main table, Engineer Armando Vividor, who is representing Mr. Melendez, and from the General Direction of Civil Protection of El Salvador, also to greet Major Joaquin Parada, who's the Director of the Fire Department of El Salvador. Also thank and greet Fabian Arellano, who is the Technical Manager of the Regional Program for Disaster, the Regional Disaster Assistance Program for Latin America and the Caribbean, that we call RDAP. And also to say hello to my colleague, who I think she really deserves an applause, Luisa Alfaro. We have few women. We need to increase the gender approach here, not only in OFDA, but also in many of the countries of the national systems in our region. And I think that Luisa is an excellent example for this, of what women can lead and do in our countries of Latin America and the Caribbean. We really appreciate the great work that she has led here, not only in this event, but also during all these years where she has been working so hard next to lots of the people gathered here. I also want to greet each one of you for your participation. I am not going to repeat much of what has been already said here, but yes, definitely there were important advances that arose along these 3 days in this forum in different sectors: health sector, private sector, national systems, the fire department sectors, the first responders, the society organizations like NGOs. I want to thank you all, each and every one of you. Also the representatives from the governments, public officials that we had here. We want to thank them for coming over and sharing with us. We have had lots of important progresses and experiences that we have shared. There are too many to mention them by one. The most important one, I think, is the World Cup. And I think that this is a clear example of the power that the incident command system has and offers. Unfortunately, I have to say that there is still not a country which has in its legislation that ICS is or shall be the managerial system for disaster management for the country. I think that that's what we should try to do now. We, as the government of the United States and as part of the USAID and Office of Foreign Disaster Assistance, we are more facilitators of the process, of your processes, of your systems in your countries. As the Deputy Chief of the LA Fire Department, our friend Jay Lopez, and I repeat that, it's yours. How are you going to do this? And we can support to impact and to be able to change the legislation to really make this a mandate and not just by the will of the actors. I think that I would like in the future that I'm going to be paying close attention, observing which is the country that's to achieve this, and afterwards we have to go here and share with us how you were able to do it, because that is going to be the formula for success, so that the ICS is really sustainable. And how did this all begin? Because we also have to see backwards. And as we all know, and shared with us here today, also in California, due to forest fires, which are recurrent. And I was remembering, and I think that everybody else did, who doesn't like soccer here? Latin American soccer. There's just one person who doesn't like it, so please cover your ears. But if you, when you were young, ever played soccer with your friends, and you said, well, did you ever play that you just had to carry the ball and skip this and that person, and someone stood there as a goalkeeper, and they just shoot balls and that, but it was all a complete disorder. We were just running all over and kicking around. Disasters if we do not have a managerial system to manage efficiently in a disaster, like playing that kind of soccer. Everybody is all over, they collapse and collide. No, the ball is not mine, I send it to my friend. But when we are under a system, and when we identify ourselves and say, okay, let's choose which are the two best players among our friends, and everybody made their own teams, remember? And afterwards, what happened? Either some took off the shirt, and the others left the shirt to be able to know which was which team, and there was different. We played against each. We coordinated the game. We knew who played in the front, who played in the back, who was the goalkeeper. I think that the ICS is something like that. When we get organized, it's like one of those teams. Not to mention names now, and not to be controversial mentioning Spanish teams that everybody likes. Well, ICS is that it's getting organized. It's to be convinced that through this managerial system we can manage from small incidents to large events that we call disasters. To get there, we have to work. It's not easy. We have to invest time. We have to invest money. We have to invest effort. We have to invest. Here in Salvador we say our heads. We have to invest brains. We have to invest teamwork. This is not an individual work. The fact that we're all here means, and the fact that we have a guide that the fire department from Cali facilitated to OFTA to be reviewed and shared. We now all have it. This is a work of Freddy. He documented in a great manner. We reviewed that in OFTA, but the fact that Omar also shared the ICS is of our own will. It's because we have people here, and also those who are looking at us through the network. There are lots of people who have lots of will, lots of strong desire, and they want to put their skills at the service of humanity. We are those people. OFTA facilitates the process to exchange materials, to exchange human resources, instructors, to exchange everything that adds up to perform the work of the national system for response a lot easier. Everything that is around that might help facilitate the work will be welcome. And OFTA is here to continue supporting, to continue contributing in the different countries. The challenge that we have, lots have been said here. Luisa mentioned 14 recommendations. Before that, Roy of the Salvadorian Red Cross also presented the challenges and the recommendations for OFTA. I am not going to repeat what has already been said here, but we do have the challenge of expanding the club, what I call evangelization in ICS. How are we going to make ICS become a viral system? How are we going to continue making this not just of a given group, but it is expanded and everybody has access to knowledge? How do we make this process democratic for all the people? We have big challenges. How can we, as OFTA, help supply the training demand we currently have in the region? That's a big challenge. And we have a few others, but I invite you so that everything that you can continue participating, not just with OFTA, but out of OFTA, in your countries, in your national systems. Please do. In such a way that we grow and that one day it will become into a snowball that nobody can stop. I want to wish you all a good trip back home. I want to thank the National Civil Protection System of El Salvador. I want to thank each one of you on behalf of the government of the United States, on behalf of USAID OFTA, for your participation. Really, this is just the tip of the iceberg of all the years that you have been working here, and here we come and share. So, in a short time, we have achieved much through all this hard work and long nights. Lots of experiences that we have. Thank you very much. May the Lord be with you when you on your trips back home, and an applause for the team. Thank you, Sydney. We also want to thank our internauts, all those who through camera have been with us during all this. I ask all of you, all of us who are here, to say goodbye to them, saying goodbye and applause and thanks to them for their participation. Before leaving, outside of the room, on your right hand, you're going to have there your pen drives together with your participation certificates. And we want to reiterate our gratitude to all the team who has worked so hard for this event here and from our office in Costa Rica. I want to remind you, if you haven't done so, please coordinate your pickup time with the bus depending on the time of your flight. It takes 2 hours from here to the airport. 15 minutes before the bus goes, you must have your checkout ready, so please be very considerate. Success to all, safe return home, and by saying goodbye to the main table, we are now to demobilize. Thank you.